So please go ahead and let the audience know. Give them a shout out as well.
Good morning. Oh, I'm really excited. I'm excited because Wayne Johnson is here with us. And I had been wondering about Africa, African countries, because a lot of people think Africa is a country. No, it's a continent. And, and there are many countries there on the continent of Africa. And Wayne has been there and he goes there frequently. So I'm just excited to hear about Africa and his experiences. So I'm going to sit back and just listen. This is great to me that we go to other countries, we go to other states and all of that, but very few of us are touring in Africa, in those African countries. So I'm excited, and let me sit back and listen.
Good morning, good morning. I'd like to introduce myself, Wayne Johnson. I'm sitting here with my distinguished Aunt Helen. And just to give a little background on myself, I'm a native Houstonian, born in historical Fifth Ward, Houston, Texas, in the 60s. So I kind of got a bit of the civil rights situation. I recall that a little boy would get on the bus with my mom and ride the bus downtown, and we would have to exit. Well, once we exit the bus, we would have to go downstairs in the basement of Woodward to shop. So I am a graduate of Forest Brook High School, 1978. Graduated from the University of Houston downtown with a BS in sociology. So here's a quick story on that. I'm in school and having a conversation with one of my classmates, and he's a white guy, and he asked me, what is my major? I said, sociology. He said, why? You should be studying business. Let's make money. And I shared with him, with my parents being in the ministry, my distinguished uncle, Reverend Dr. Ethel Lewis, he raised me. My dad was not present, so I was raised by a minister. His dad, Reverend Lewis, James Daddy, and Mimi were extended grandparents of myself. Uh, my sister here, Teresa Brewer, we grew up as cousins. Her dad is Reverend Norris, so he's my uncle. That's all I knew him as growing up, and he taught myself along with Reverend Dr. Ethel Lewis about business, the realty business, and about commerce in terms of the marketing along with the longshoremen at the dock. So recently, fast forward, I taught high school, small high schools, basically sociology, history. Um, I worked in the 1996 St. Thomas All Boys School over on Memorial. All International, Morris Academy, and Westside Prep. One of those schools today is still not open, but my interest was basketball. In around 1996, myself and a cousin, Ron Lewis, we started a group called HAAY. That's Houston Athletic Amateur Youth. We were able to go to the inner city and assist young black boys with traveling expenses, being able to teach them how to play basketball, which I learned from my distinguished uncle. And we traveled throughout the country. Some of the kids, TJ Ford, Carlos Hurd, Tack Minor, those kids were very successful in terms of going to the McDonald's All-American Camp and game. And today, one of my cousins, Jim Hicks, he has taken a mantle and he is presently running RCS Sports, and he's doing an immaculate job in helping the youth get scholarships, education on SAT prep classes, and today we're dealing with what they call the NIL, name, image, and likeness, where the kids are able to receive compensation for participating in sports, which has been a long-going struggle just to get equality in terms of sports and academics, student athletes. So Africa, that had always been a bucket list of mine. You know, growing up in HISD in school, they talked about the Serengetis. They talked about Africa, North Africa, East Africa. You think about the history of Africa, and of course, uh, I'm aware, having traced my genealogy, that my parents, my forefathers, they came from Africa. That's the country from which I come. People that look like me, dark-skinned black people. And my parents, my forefathers, great-great-grandparents, they arrived around 1600 in Africa. And from there, Florida. And from there, they migrated to Red Rivers Parish, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Natchitoches, Louisiana. And in the 50s, my mom, Hazel Johnson Sanders, they migrated to Houston, Texas, which is the fourth largest city, opportunity for job, education, commerce, things of that nature. So 2022, right after COVID, I had an opportunity to go visit Africa, which was a bucket list story of mine, or something I needed to do before my time was up here. And to my amaze, I was going to East Africa, which is Tanzania. Tanzania was colonized by the British in the early 1930s. They received their independence in 1961. Now, Tanzania requires two flights from here to Paris, or here to Amsterdam, or here to Qatar. And I had the opportunity to visit those places, and I laid over a couple of days and did some sightseeing. It's a 10 to 11 hour flight. Then from there, there's an additional 11-hour flight to Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam is an ancient Muslim country that was at one time colonized by the British. Then Arabs came over there, and then now some of the Chinese influences over there. Now during my travels, those 11-hour flights, unfortunately, 95% of the people on the plane don't look like me. They're white or Anglo. When I say Anglo, when I stop in Paris or Amsterdam and we aboard that second flight that's taking us from Europe to Africa, 95% of the people on the plane are white. And so once we arrive in Kilimanjaro, or Zanzibar, or Arusha, they exit the plane. There's an additional hour flight to Dar es Salaam, which is farthest east. That's the Indian Ocean. And they exit the plane. They're going on vacation, and most of them are in groups of 5, 10, 20 plus, and they're going to enjoy themselves. They're going to the Serengeti, and they're going to Kilimanjaro, the mountains. The Serengeti, and we studied that in the history books in middle school. That's where the safaris are. That's where you have an opportunity to get on a Jeep, and it's all controlled, and you go through the jungles or through the bush, and you're able to visit a historical place that's like stuck in time. They still have Maasai warriors, are those guys that have those traditional African uniforms on, and they carry the knife on the side. They're, by law over there, they're given the right to carry the swords to protect their people. And majority of them, they do security on their off time when they're not in the bush, tending to cattle and things of that nature. So Africa, oh man, gorgeous, gorgeous. I am so blessed that at 64 years old today, and I first traveled there at 62, never thought I would get there. It's amazing. I've traveled 7 additional times since going September 13, 2022, and it's amazing. There's a particular quadrant or area that I reside in, and it's called Masaki. Masaki is a combination, if you're a Houstonian, if you can picture Galveston and take maybe River Oaks and you combined it, it's gorgeous over there. And you know, I reside 1 football field from the Indian Ocean. I mean, it's gorgeous, it's tropical. The weather is probably 90 degrees daily. They have what they call a rainy season. That's around from February to probably May. That might be the best time to travel when things are not that expensive. And by the way, the travel is not that expensive. If you went to a travel agent or you book your stuff maybe 6 months in advance, it's not expensive at all. And the people, oh man, the people look like me. I blend in sight right now. I barely speak Swahili, maybe a few words. Mambo, which is hi, and Asante, which is thank you, the basic words to communicate. And they, the Tanzanians, the country has never been to war. I can step on someone's foot, and what's the gesture that's given, you take your right hand and you place it on over your heart, and you bow your head, and that's my apologies. And that's it. There's no conflict, no confrontation, and of course there's a great smile greeted there. And it's just an awesome place. I've often thought maybe in the next 5 years, or when my time is almost up, that I'm gonna relocate there. But I love my country here as well. I love America, the land of opportunity. It's just a wonderful, wonderful place. I love what we do in this country in terms of helping the world, and I hope we continue to do that. But back to Africa. The country is 50% Christian, 50% Muslims. Now, me being a Christian my entire life, I've never had the opportunity to interact with Muslim people. And there, with 50% of the country being Muslim, the Madam President, the president of the country, she's a Muslim, and they're the kindest people in the world. No, there's no police department there. Well, there are police stations. There's no police patrol. Crime is relatively low. You can feel very, very comfortable just walking around the city. Commerce is there. The restaurants, the country is just an immaculate place to visit. Immaculate. So I wish I had more time. I can give you guys my vision of Africa, having visited there, in particular Dar es Salaam, Africa, which is east of Africa, right near the island of Madagascar, very much near Australia. So you might get a picture where it's located. During my travels, I also had the opportunity to visit Nairobi, Kenya. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. People look like me running the country. The president, police people, everybody that look like me run the country. And I had the opportunity to visit Kampala, Uganda. Now, when you think of Uganda, you may think about the notorious Idi Amin from back in the day. But today, very, very beautiful country. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Now, unfortunately, with the conflict in Sudan, South Sudan borders Uganda. So quite many of the Sudanese people have relocated to Kampala, Uganda, or Entebbe. You think about Entebbe. And it's a beautiful, gorgeous place. Had the opportunity to visit Ethiopia. Wow, think about that, Ethiopia. Beautiful, gorgeous place. Very, very immaculate place with beautiful people doing gorgeous things in terms of commerce, education. And I would never have thought in my life that a little boy from Fifth Ward, Texas, would have had the opportunity to visit these immaculate places, these historical places that I only read about in the books, in the history books. And unfortunately, they're trying to change the history books as we speak right now. But I am a testament. I was there. I was just in Africa maybe 15 days ago. I was on a visit. Now, what takes me to Africa these days is my concentration in basketball. So there's a group in Africa called Refocus Africa. It's ran by Lisa Akani. She's born in St. Louis, Missouri, but she resides in Houston, Texas. And they run a nonprofit there that assists the Africans in irrigation, education, medical situations, and commerce. And she called me in 2022 and asked me would I come over and assist her in utilizing or putting together some kind of sports situation where some of the kids can come over to American and get education and play basketball. Me being a former basketball coach, I jumped on the opportunity. And I went September 22nd, had a terrific time. I was a little nervous, a little apprehensive at first. You know, like most of us, I thought, well, I was going to the bush. You know, there were going to be lions, elephants, and it was just going to be a very dangerous place. Now, I haven't seen a dangerous place that doesn't have a police department patrolling. Now, we have police patrolling city of Houston hourly. There's no patrol there, so it couldn't be that much danger. But I had to go over there to see for myself. And once I greeted the people and they greeted me back, I was able to lower my guards, and it was just a terrific, wonderful place. So initially went September 22nd, because I had such a wonderful time. I went back October, and I had a great time there. We were doing paperwork to help the kids get assisted in terms of going through the American Embassy to get their I-20s and paperwork to come over to America so they can participate in school, get a great education, come back to their countries and help their country prosper in terms of moving forward. So my first initial visit, September 22nd, I went back October 13th. I was able to bring 2 kids back, accompany them on the air flight. We stopped in Doha, Qatar. Around that time, they had the World Cup going on, the soccer deal, and it was amazing. We had the opportunity to spend 2 days there. So I got a chance to go to the Middle East as well. It was awesome. And you ought to see these cities. These cities are just metro cities. They're gorgeous. These are cities that you'll see in the magazine. Oh man, it's like New York City. It's amazing. So that was October. Brought 2 kids back. One kid, Felix Garsana, 6'11", migrated from Kigali, Rwanda. If you remember the conflict in Rwanda, where they had the Tutus and the Hussies, the Tutus and the conflict, his parents migrated across the border to Tanzania. He was born in Tanzania, but he was from Kigali. So we had to, with Refocus Africa, we had to go through all kind of bureaucrats in terms of getting his passport, birth certificate, and things of that nature. He's here now, playing junior college basketball, and he's about to sign a D1 scholarship to play at one of your major universities in the SEC. The other kid, his name is Nikas Doha, and he's a Tanzanian kid who I personally took an interest in, and for 2 years now he's been presiding, living with me. He attends Marion NTI Academy over on the southwest side of Houston, and he plays basketball. He's about to graduate. We're about to get him in some kind of college, and he's going to get a scholarship. He's a terrific kid. Everybody say that he had great mannerism about himself. And those are some of the things about Africa that I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to let my distinguished cousin, Teresa Brewer, talk to you guys, and I'm going to come back with some more information.
Yes, we thank you for all the information. It's really been a delight learning so much about Africa. You know, that's what this conversation and the podcast is about. It's just getting, some people say, down home information from the person that actually participated in the event. So we just want to thank you for your words. Thank you for, telling the story and making it plain about the continent of Africa. And thank you for all the hard work you do with the young people, bringing them back to the United States, allowing them to experience something here, and then sharing so that maybe others can just, get involved and go to Africa as well. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
Sure.
All right, so we just want to go ahead and talk about Black History Month. And we know that Woodson G. Carter G. Woodson was the prominent instrument. He was instrument in creating Black History Week. That initially they called it the Negro History Week. From the Negro History Week, then we went to Black History Month. So we're delighted that we have the opportunity to recognize African Americans that have made contributions here in the United States. Just to kind of elaborate on that, Ms. Johnson, we'd like for you to do that if you're okay with it.
I tell you what, Ms. Brewer, thank you very much. But I am still excited about my nephew's presentation because I just wanted to know more about Africa. And it's just been a joy just sitting here listening to him. And he's talking about his bucket list as young as he is. I have it on my bucket list, and after listening to him, I better hurry and get there. But it's amazing that here we are, Black History Month, and usually we go into information about, like, certain heroes or people that we recognize as celebrities, but nobody's really talking about Africa. And that's why I think, Ms. Brewer, to have my nephew Wayne on talking about Africa was the most appropriate thing to do for Black History Month. And you said that you want me to talk about some of the great historians.
Maybe the historians that we've had in the past. Everyone know Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, but there were many other Black African Americans made contribution to our history. Just to name a few, that would be great, Ms. Johnson.
Barbara Jordan is one that we are not giving enough information about, and Barbara Jordan was one of the greatest legislators that ever lived, right here from Houston, Texas, and again, like Wayne, from Fifth Ward. Barbara Jordan. I was privileged to be over Barbara Jordan's book reception, years ago, and I had a chance to talk to Barbara, well, at least to communicate with Barbara, but it's something that I still have an eerie feeling about when it comes to Barbara. After Barbara was involved in that Watergate situation, and she had all of the information on what happened there with Nixon, President Nixon, and the unlawful act that was created, the unconstitutional act that was created. Barbara came down with cancer, with some kind of bone cancer, and she was my favorite because when I was a girl, we went to the same school. We went to Texas Southern. We just had the Fairchild Building and Hannah Hall then, there in Third Ward, and she was a little older, but I would rush to school every morning because she was on the debate team, and she was the greatest debater that I knew. That I hadn't heard of a debater until I heard Barbara Jordan, and I would rush to school every morning because she was there around 7:30. Can you imagine me up that early? But I just wanted to be there and see her when she walked down from Fairchild Building where the bus dropped us off to go to Hannah Hall, and she would speak to me. Oh, I was so excited that Barbara Jordan actually spoke to me. But back to her reception and everything and what happened to her. I was tearful when I saw her, and she couldn't stand. She stumbled when she stood. And I realized this years later, that something terrible had happened to her. Then they let us know that she did have this bone cancer. But, and I have to be careful about this, but this is what I experienced, and I have to tell it. I think that that's something very wicked, something ominous, something demonic was going on with Barbara Jordan. They had her teaching, yes, and they moved someone in with her. So nobody could really get close to Barbara. You could not really talk to Barbara alone that long for an extended period of time because somebody would always be there by her side. Her family couldn't even be there with her. I became suspicious. I became very suspicious. And when we had her booked at the hotel, I had made the arrangements for her to be in the hotel and for the person with her to have an adjourning suite. I had it, everything was settled. but something went wrong, and I wasn't there early that morning when she came to check in, and the person that I worked with at the hotel did not wasn't there either. So they didn't put her in her adjoining suites. They had her in one suite and the person that was with her in another. And all hell had broken loose by the time I got to the hotel, and we had to get it straightened out. Well, finally we got them together, but that didn't go well for me, and I had worked so hard, it was just the perfect thing. But I was concerned that here's a woman that was in a wheelchair, a woman that was incapacitated. She could teach, yes, she was a brilliant woman and she did teach at the University of Texas. But I often wondered, how is it she was found floating in the swimming pool and she couldn't even walk? And nobody was out there with her, and you couldn't even have her in a room by herself, but yet she's floating in this pool. So I was very concerned about that. I know Ms. Brewer didn't want me to get sidetracked on something like that, but think about that. And I would like to know, since they have the FBI reports that they're bringing in and looking at them, I would like for them to tell us what the FBI said about Barbara Jordan's death. I also met Floria Marshall in Houston, Texas. Some of our Houston great. Floria Marshall was over Operation Breadbasket. He was very outspoken, and you knew him as a newspaper man. He's a photographer and all of that. Well, Floria Marshall, I think they're there on Dowling Street. Everything was in Third Ward just about. And Floria Marshall was the one that, like, we have the problem with the school board and all of that. And I'm going to say something that's not really becoming of a lady, but I'm quoting Floria Marshall. When the school board was not behaving, or when the school board was not actually carrying out the laws and whatever they should have done to make our educational system better for our children, Floria appeared and told them they needed to piss or get off the pot. And Floria Marshall was one that he was something like O.V. Dockentale. They were very similar. And I remember Floria very well. Now, when I was at Texas Southern, trying to get my first degree in psychology, there was a young man that I liked. He was in the pharmacy department. And he had this blondish hair and these hazel eyes, and they called him Mickey Leland. Mm-hmm. And Mickey would come down and, and he was going to, that's when he was planning to run for office. And I said, Mickey, you think you're going to win this election? He said, yeah, I've got it. I know I'm going to win. But he was so personable. And Mickey was the one that would dress in the dashikis and everything. So he was everybody's favorite. But fast forward, after Mickey became a congressman in Washington, D.C., and this is putting me back to Black history, I was a neighborhood commissioner. And we went up with Moses Leroy and the group of commissioners from Harris County. And Mickey said, Helen, I want to show you my office. I went in and I looked on the wall and I saw these beautiful frames and the paintings of the portraits. And they were several portraits of people that were black. Their complexions were blue-black. And they were dressed in these elegant fabrics and everything. I said, well, Mickey, who are these people? He said, Helen, they haven't taught you, have they? He said, these are the Moors. And he let me know that the Moors had ruled portions of Europe for about 900 years. But they didn't really teach us about them. And during their reign, they called it the Dark Ages, but they didn't tell us what was going on in the Dark Ages. He said that a white artist was honored to paint a Moor. And that's when I started studying about the Moors more. Now, there was also another gentleman that I met, and his name was Curtis Graves. Now, he was our first black state legislator, Curtis Graves. And these are people from Houston, but I actually met them. These are people whose lives actually touched me and made me want to do more and be a better person. And but it also made me look at our communities, look at us, look at who we are, where did we come from? Why are we so hated? Why are we the ones that are hated so much when we were the ones that were abused and maimed and lynched and mistreated? Why are we the ones that were hated so much? And I'm going to be talking about that in another podcast because I had done some research and for the first time after reading some of these books, I understood why we are so despised by the world. And by the way, I wrote a poem, Black Man, Why You So Despised All Over the World. But anyway, going back to Houston and some of our greats, we have people, great people from Houston, Harris County. We have them all around us, and a lot of times we don't even talk about them. John Bland was the one that led the sit-ins at the counter sit-ins, and and TSU had the Baptist Student Union, and Reverend Lawson was over it, and John Bland was one of the students, and in those 60s they went and sat at Woolworths that Wayne was talking about, and grants, and they would sit there until they were waited on, because at that time we couldn't eat at those counters with those white people. We couldn't sit at those counters. We couldn't get served and all of that. John Bland led those students, and John Bland later became a great labor leader. He's deceased now. And when I look back at it,